Relish, pleasing or zestful flavor.
A quantity just sufficient to flavor, to be pleased or gratified by, enjoy.
We are hoping that what we bring to your table today might add some spice to your life.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Relish. I'm Rowan Miller, and this is, of course, Don Patterson.
It's good to be here.
It is. It's a fun thing to be here.
It is fun. It is fun.
Yeah.
I'm glad to do it with you. It's been a privilege.
It has been.
You've been really busy here lately.
You have too, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But
running around town, running out of state,
Oh my, yes, we did do some of that, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah, and you've been so busy in soccer and in golf.
Yeah.
And showed up as the local newspaper's athlete of the week. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
God bless you, Rowan. That's cool.
Thank you, Don. You too.
Well, we probably ought to remind everybody that comic relief in this is that Rowan brings these heavy-duty questions, and you've been really doing good on the questions.
Yeah.
And I have no preparation ahead of time other than what I do in my pastoral work here. So the comic relief is trying to stump Don so that he doesn't have anything to say, and which is difficult.
Yeah.
And really a challenge. And that's part of what we do. Try to spice things up by being as authentic and quick in our answers as we can possibly be without preparation ahead of time.
Yeah. I scrap around from him, so he doesn't even know where they're coming from.
That's right. That's right. I have no idea which of his friends he's talked to this week about this question.
Well, today we got them coming from the end of the Hillcrest episodes.
Okay.
So we still got a couple from that. So some of these, I don't even know who they're coming from.
Okay. They're that. Okay. Okay. I'm ready.
Yeah. So this first one, it's a pretty deep question. What is your take on the concept of the God of the gaps? Couldn't one argue all theology is built on the God of the gaps concept, or is there irrefutable logical evidence proving God's existence?
I think there's irrefutable evidence of God's existence, and one of the things that the Bible brings out is the consistency between the beginning of the Old Testament all the way to Revelation. He never changes. In fact, God himself would say he never changes so that we would not be in danger. If he changed and the rules would change, then how would we know ahead of time whether all the rules have changed, like in sports, soccer, golf. If all of a sudden, this year there's brand new rules and nobody told you, and all of a sudden you did the play according to the rules of last year, but this year that disqualifies that play, you wouldn't feel good about that, would you? No. And you wouldn't have any warning ahead of time. So my sense is God being consistent from Old Testament to New, which is sometimes missed, how consistent God is between the Old Testament and New, is the reason that we can trust him, and it is a proof that he's there. God of the gaps, I really haven't heard that concept before. Do you have that? Yeah,
so the God of the gaps is essentially like when there are gaps in scientific evidence or reasoning, then it's referenced as indications of God's existence, where God will like step in and do something and that just explains what science can't, essentially. Okay. So like some examples of this are like some of the current scientists don't believe in the Big Bang Theory, obviously, so they would say God just created life, but
we don't know exactly
how
he did that.
Yeah, originally Isaac Newton, with all his mathematics calculations with the solar system, thought that it should be disrupting itself, like the planets would be running into each other or something like that. So he said that every once in a while God would step in and keep it aligned.
Just take care of that.
Yeah. So
and that's where I would come out just the opposite and say that's more theocentric evolution.
Yeah.
That'd be God of the gaps, I guess. And I am more of a 7-day, 24-hour day. God created from the very beginning all things, and so I don't see the gaps.
Mhm.
I come from the other angle.
Yeah.
So I put God at the center and at the very beginning, whereas, and I don't dismiss science. I don't dismiss
Yeah.
science because science, I think, proves God.
Yeah.
And some of the science that I've seen about footprints, human footprints and dinosaur footprints in the same fossil level tells me I'm not sure evolution was quite right. And
Yeah.
billions of years, I don't think so.
Yeah.
So that's where I come out.
Hmm.
The gaps thing isn't a problem for me
Yeah.
because I don't see gaps. Yeah.
All right. Maybe I should go and see what all some other more
You
examples or
could. You can bring it
whatever.
again.
Bring it back. Yeah.
That'd be fine.
Yeah.
It works good from examples because then I can give examples too.
Yeah. You guys should let us know if you enjoyed listening to that part, and then
Well, that's
you
true.
can comment and tell us, insert some more questions,
And submit questions in the comments. I mean, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can put the comments right in the bottom, and our producer will clean those questions and give them back to us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
See, our producer gave us a new background, so we
Yeah.
want to. Hi,
Had to
producer.
throw it back
Thank
there for
you.
him. Yeah. All right. Why do people interpret the Bible in so many different ways?
Interpret the Bible in so many different ways. Well, partially because we're human. In our human experience, we're always going to project what we know onto what we're learning. Doesn't matter what subject it is, but we're always, as human beings, going to project what we know and our understanding of how the universe works and how life works in general. We're going to interpret that and press that upon what we're learning. And so we'll filter, if you will, the kind of information that even if we're learning science or math or anything else, we're still going to use our filter work to bring that in. It's only when we start taking the subject to deeper levels that we begin to allow that work to change our way of interpreting things. So in other words, then we become a disciple of Jesus Christ, and we'll understand through who Jesus is, who God is better. By understanding God better, we understand why the Old Testament reads like it does compared to the New Testament and how it reads. Because some people think, well, we don't need the Old Testament anymore. And part of that's because of the way they're interpreting it through their filter. So, go back to the question again.
Why do people interpret the Bible in so many
And
different
that's
ways?
why people interpret it so much differently. We have different filters for learning and in receiving information. We have different levels of being engaged in the subject, like the Bible.
Yeah.
And so we're going to interpret it differently. I mean, in my own experience, by getting deeper in the Word, I changed theologically a great deal between 1995 and 1999 because I wasn't tied to a church in that period of time. I could go into the Word and allow it to speak to me, rather than me saying, "Well, this says," and according to this, I could allow the Word to speak to me.
Yeah,
and it changed me
in
a good way.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah, good way. Yeah,
I'd say so.
Some of you who knew me before 1997 might say differently, but I think I've grown exponentially by not taking my interpretation into the Word, but allowing the Word to speak into my life.
Yeah.
Rather than the other way around. Yeah. If I have something I want to justify and then read it I'll find the passage that justifies that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not really allowing the Word to speak to me. That's me using the Word to justify my actions. So it's backwards.
Yeah. You think there's multiple correct interpretations?
I think that less than I used to.
Yeah.
I used to think, oh, well, there's some truth in that. And I believe that less than I used to.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I think we create a legalism sometimes that's hard to live up to that may not be godly. So we have to be a little careful with that as well.
Yeah. Different denominations interpret different ways. Would they
do.
You say that they kind of select passages differently, or?
Well, we usually follow a founder of some sort.
Yeah.
And in following that founder, then whatever that founder, who probably knew more about it than we claim to, we follow what they interpret. There's some things like I don't see infant baptism in the Bible.
Yeah.
But I do see that infants were so important to Jesus, especially when you see that first part of Matthew 18. Children were so important to Jesus. There needs to be something like a dedication or something, but maybe not baptism. But baptism of infants was used in the pre-Reformation period so we could get the census records right.
Yeah.
Okay, kids born, let's make sure they are on the tax rolls. And so it worked for the church at that time. I'm not sure it works for the church today. So that'd be one point. I don't see infants be baptized, but there's a denomination that makes a case for infant baptism because of how much Jesus cared for children.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a good answer. Why is God said to be a jealous God? What does that mean? Isn't jealousy a sin?
I was thinking about that the other day. And it's Exodus chapter 20 that we see that. And God's doing this. I'm not sure the jealousy that is outlined in this passage is the same thing. Like I'm jealous of, boy, you got a really nice shirt. I'm jealous of your shirt. I don't think it's that same kind of jealousy that we think of on a human level, but it's a God who wants our worship because it's put in that context. You shall not bow down to them. You shall not make for yourself any form of anything in heaven above or earth beneath or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them nor worship them, for I, the Lord, your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the fathers to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, and showing love to the 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. So I think just expanding that to see the whole context of that comment about God's jealousy helps us understand it's not jealousy in that he has to have it or carries the same kind of sin that if I'm jealous of you, it's the kind of jealousy that he wants us to love him. Yeah. And he wants us to worship him. It's not I've got to have that or you can't have that kind of jealousy that we often cultivate as human beings. That's totally different than what God's doing here.
Yeah.
But we're limited in our English language, and that's how it comes out. I mean, how can we describe in any language the emotions of God? So that's close. Yeah. And so that's one of those situations, well, if you take that same word into the human experience, then it'd be a sin. Yeah. So why wouldn't it be a sin to God, for God to do that? Well, it's because his nature is desirous of our worship. And that's all right. I mean, he's God. He could ask for that, Mm-hmm. And that, I think the error is more in our language than it is in the character of God.
That's interesting. Never thought about that before.
Our language is pretty pathetic.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm starting to know that more after.
I look at the John 20 and I'll be preaching. I preached that last week. There's 3 different words for saw used in chapter 20, and they're all different in the Greek, but we use the same word in the English. I mean, you talk about pathetic. That's yeah. Okay. Just one of those illustrations of how our language is limited.
Yeah.
To really reflect who God is. Yeah.
How do you walk in the spiritual authority God gives us?
Oh man, that's a good one. We can walk in that spiritual authority by the cultivation of our personal relationship with God. And that authority is not something that we grasp hold of, it's actually something given. And so if you're in a situation of, let's go at spiritual warfare, just go blow this one right out of the park. How do you work in spiritual warfare with authority? Well, it's our authority, but it's not really resident in us as much as it is a reflection of God. And so when I go into a situation where I know that God has authority over everything else, and I'm working on his behalf, and I'm renouncing the ground that the devil has taken, and God has given us authority to take it back because we're in Christ. We're in Christ, we're a new creation, we're children of God. Romans 8. So we can act on that authority from the relationship we have with the Father. And that gives us the authority to do spiritual warfare for him, for his kingdom. It's Dr. Marcus Warner would liken it to the fact that we're like policemen. It's not like we have the authority, but we do represent that authority in times of spiritual encounter with, like, the devil.
Yeah.
And so we can walk in that authority because of who we are in Christ. And that's how we can, walk with spiritual authority. Yeah.
Nice.
Did that answer the question? What was the question again? I sort of get off on the answer there, and I sort of miss sometimes the question.
How do you walk in the spiritual authority God gives us?
Okay.
So I think
we walk like a policeman does. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll do one more here. What advice do you have for someone considering a gap year or college after high school?
Oh, man. I love that question. I would say there's several discipleship-oriented ministries that you could maybe go into for a year. There's one out of Ohio, and I'm trying to think, what was here at church a couple of weeks? Off the Wall Ministries in Ohio, I would say is one of those that actually you can go live with them. You can minister through their work, and part of every day is discipleship. And so you grow as a disciple of Jesus Christ in that period of time. It is the kind of investment that you can make that would equate, I'd say, a year of college. And then not only do you age a year and go into your freshman year of college more seasoned, if you will, more aware of who you are and what you're being called to do, but you also go with a level of discipleship that can help you be stronger every day to live. I mean, if you're not in a Christian college atmosphere, you could go to a university and still feel like you're a Christian and could minister in there in the university atmosphere, maybe a little stronger. That's a great question, Rowan. Yeah.
Wish I could claim that one.
You couldn't. It wasn't your question. Okay.
Not mine.
Well, that's all right. That's all right. That's a good question. Yeah, it really was.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. I hope you enjoyed. Maybe share it with a friend or loved ones.
Like it.
Yeah.
Put a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that. Well, thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Lord
willing.
willing.
Thank you for joining us for this podcast. Feel free to become part of this ministry by sharing it with others. Our goal is to help each other grow deeper in our understanding of who God is and His calling to us in our daily lives. Thank you again for joining us, and may God bless your day.